Diffusion, the international science radio show.
We have a bouncer on the doors of perception.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
It gets pretty exciting.
The myths, the truths.
Toxicology.
Astroseismology.
Magnetism. The dark side.
Genetically engineered potatoes.
Planetoid.
Planetoid.
I love that word.
Hello and welcome to Diffusion. Sit back and relax while we plant the seeds of weird and wonderful science directly into your fertile imagination. I'm Ian Woolf. This episode was originally broadcast on the 24th of January 2011 when there was still a Diffusion team recording in the 2SER studios, but the number of people had dwindled. So that for this episode, my voice will be the only one you hear. The other team members were too busy to come in and keep me company. You'll hear whistling caterpillars, a company profiling everybody, whether they have an account or not, carnivorous household robots, the attention diet, and the discovery of the Woolf-Pulfrich Effect. So return with me now to the innocent days of the 24th of January 2011. Hello and welcome to Diffusion. Listen to amazing and bizarre science infuse into your brain. I'm Ian Woolf. On this summer edition, we'll feature how paying attention can pay off and the Woolf-Pulfrich Effect. But first up, bug zappers powered by the bugs they zap. Orja Loizu and Alex Zivanek of Material Beliefs have created appliances powered by catching insects modelled on carnivorous plants. The bug zapper catches the bugs it zaps, and they are fermented in a bacterial fuel cell to make electricity for the capacitors to zap the next bug. They built a fly-powered clock powered by a conveyor belt of fly paper. Just like sundews, flies land on the sticky surface and can't escape. The conveyor belt brings the flies to the bacterial fuel cell where they power the clock and the rollers. The lampshade robot draws insects in with its light, where they enter a maze through any of the holes in the spherical lampshade. Once inside, they can't see how to escape. When they die, they fall into the bacterial fuel cell to make electricity to light the LED lamp. They've built a robot that's designed to encourage spiders to build webs around it. It has a camera to sense flies in the web and an arm with pinchers to accurately steal flies from the webs and deposit them in its bacterial fuel cell. This uses more power than the other devices, so it steals some power from the bug zapper, which makes way more than it needs. You can see all of these carnivorous domestic entertainment robots on Wallace and Gromit's World of Invention, or you can see the videos of the robots on the Diffusion episode notes page. Listeners with a good memory will recall that 5 years ago I reported on gardening robots powered by the snails they caught and processed in microbial fuel cells. The search term to read more is microbial fuel cell. Hear that? That's a caterpillar that whistles. The Scientist journal reports walnut sphinx caterpillars blow air out of a small hole in their abdomen called a spiracle. Caterpillars breathe through the holes in their abdomen, but it's the final pair of spiracles that make a whistling sound that's audible to birds and humans. Lasting up to 4 seconds, the whistle appears to ward off predators such as hungry birds, which fly away upon hearing the sound. If I heard that, I'd be pretty startled as well. Fluoride-based toothpaste can weaken children's teeth for life. For the first time since it was introduced in the 1940s, the American Department of Health and Human Services and the US Environmental Protection Agency have recommended that fluoride levels in public water supplies be lowered. People are taking large amounts of fluoride from toothpaste, mouthwash, prescription supplements, and applications by dentists. As a result, children are getting mottled teeth from overexposure to fluoride. The agency is recommending that fluoride levels be lowered from 1.2 milligrams per litre to 0.7 milligrams per litre. About 2 out of every 5 children in the USA have lacy white spots or markings on their teeth caused by overdosing on fluoride. This condition is called fluorosis, and it weakens teeth in the long run. Who would have thought dumping a prescription drug in the water supply for people to consume in random doses, unregulated by any doctor, could ever lead to hurting people in the exact way it was meant to help them? The press release can be seen on the US Department of Health and Human Services website. The press release explains that the new lower figure of 0.7 milligrams per litre was not determined from research into effective protection of teeth, but was simply the lower boundary of the range of fluoride that they were already adding to the public water supply. They also seem to be blaming the fluorosis on parents encouraging their children to use fluoride-based toothpaste, rather than the fact that they are adulterating the water supply themselves. For the last 70 years, the best advice to parents was to teach your child to brush their teeth with a fluoride-based toothpaste, because drinking fluoride in the water isn't enough to prevent tooth decay. Now the US Department of Health and Human Services don't say that parents should buy their children fluoride-free toothpaste, but it seems the only way to avoid fluorosis caused by fluoridated public water supplies. IT News reports that Gotham dating partners plan to profile everybody, whether they register or not. Gotham dating partners aren't from a Batman comic, but they might be supervillains. They own and operate dating sites such as Dons and Divas, Faithful Lover, Marry Me First, Prison Hookup, and Ugly People Date. The company currently has 6.5 million profiles and plans to add 340 million more by scraping publicly available information from Facebook and other social network sites, email registries, mailing lists, marketing surveys, government census records, real estate listings, and business websites to create new dating profiles for people who haven't chosen to register with them. Why list people who haven't registered as looking to find a dating partner? Well, Gotham Dating Partners also wants to become an accurate source of saleable, publicly available information about private citizens for anyone who wants to know and has the money to pay. They believe that anything they can easily access about you on the internet is fair game, stating that if the information is already public, there are no privacy issues. The only way to protect yourself from Gotham Dating Partners is to register on their site and then delete your profile. Next up, Peer Review, the first tune from Canadian band The Peer Review Players.
Every day we live through a revolution, revelation, millions of minds just working on, moving on, trying to find a way for everyone to just keep getting along. Scientific right through experimental wrong. Can you see the power of peer review working for me and you? Every day and every night. Do you see it, hear the sound, do you know? Is it clear, are you down with the power of peer review? for you. If a scientist does bad stuff, peer review will crack their bluff. That's peer review. That's what we do. Research for you. If there's something you'd like to discuss, please just don't make a fuss. My data's all clearly in line, every figure laid out just fine. Is there something that unsettles you? Perhaps from a personal point of view. I'll admit it's not easy to digest, but this material has been vetted by the best. There's nothing we can predict with certainty, but it's not gambling, it's truth's closest proximity. We're open to alternate theories as well, but come, let's prove them and bid our conflict farewell. Can you see the power of peer review working for me and you? Every day and every night. Do you see it, hear the sound, do you know? Is it clear, are you down with the power of peer review? For me and for you, if a scientist does bad stuff, peer review will call their bluff. That's peer review. Scare tactics may work on a few, but ultimately they just won't do. Use science to see you through. Just let go of your preconceived view. The truth truly is blind, exposed to procedures designed. Our knowledge can't be confined. It's more than the sum of our minds. Can you see the power of peer review working for me and you? Every day and every night. Do you see it, hear the sound, do you know? Is it clear, are you down with the power of peer review? For me and for you, if a scientist does bad stuff, the peer review will call their bluff. That's peer review. That's what we do. Research for you.
You're listening to Diffusion Science Radio. Send email to science@diffusionradio.com. That's science@diffusionradio.com. We're brought to you across Australia on the Community Radio Network and over the internet on www.diffusionradio.com. Harvard University asked 2,000 people to write down their moods in a score of 0 to 100 at random times using an iPhone application, and found a correlation between how involved they were with their tasks and how happy they were. No matter how mundane or joyous the task at hand, if they devoted all their attention, they were more likely to be happy, whereas if they were lost in thought, then they were more likely to say they were unhappy. They found that people's minds wandered nearly 50% of the time. In related news, a team of Princeton psychologists tried using ugly fonts to make text harder to read in high school classes, while text in the same lessons for different students was left alone. Making information harder to understand is called disfluency. After several weeks, students were tested for how well they remembered their lessons. Across the range of English, history and physics, the students who had the ugly fonts did much better than the students with plain fonts, except in the chemistry class. A follow-up survey showed that there weren't any differences that could be caused by students just liking a font more or trying harder for their favourite subject. The theory is that because it's harder to read the words, students are forced to think harder and therefore tend to remember more. The name of the paper is Fortune Favours the Bold and the Italicised: Effects of Disfluency on Educational Outcomes. Now this use of attention and concentration reminds me of a story from 2005 on internal transformation. Variety isn't just the spice of life, it's also a weight loss secret. Ben Fletcher of the University of Hertfordshire has invented a no-diet diet that doesn't involve having to worry about exercise or what you eat. The weight stays off and you feel happier. The secret is to act outside of your familiar comfort zone. For the structured first month, you pick a different option from 15 pairs of contrasting behaviours, such as lively or quiet, introvert or extrovert, proactive or reactive, and they behave that way during the day. This could be a challenge for extroverts to blend in, or for introverts to stand out from the crowd. Twice a week, they also had to choose an alternative to their usual behaviour, such as listening to a different radio station or just reading a different newspaper. After 4 months, the volunteers had lost 5 kilograms. 6 months later, they'd kept the weight down and reported less depression and anxiety. The method is based on Fletcher's framework for internal transformation. When you're forced to change your routine, you have to think harder about all your decisions. So despite the volunteers not being given any instructions about exercise or diet, they ended up making wiser, more thought-through decisions in those areas without needing the willpower required to stick to a conventional weight loss diet and exercise regime. It suggests that regularly changing your behaviour in minor and even random ways makes it easier and more natural for you to change your behaviour over a longer term to be healthier and happier.
I'm biased because I knew it all along. Hindsight bias, I knew it all along. I'm biased because I put you in a category which you may or may not belong. Representativeness bias, don't stereotype this song. I'm biased because of a small detail that throws off the big picture of a thing. Anchoring bias, see the forest for the trees. I'm biased toward the first example that comes to mind. Availability bias to the first thing that comes to mind. Oh, bias, don't let bias into your mind. Bias, don't try this, it'll influence your thinking and memories. Don't mess with these, but you're guilty of distorted thinking. Cognitive bias, your mind becomes blinded. Decisions and problems, you've been forced to solve them wrongly. I'm biased because I'll only listen to what I agree with. Confirmation bias, you're near-minded if you are this. I'm biased because I take credit for success, but no blame for failure. Self-serving bias, my success and your failure. I'm biased when I remember things the way I would have expected them to be. Expectancy bias, false memories are shaped by these. I'm biased because I think my opinion now was my opinion then. Self-consistency bias, but you felt different way back when. Oh, bias, don't let bias into your mind. Bias, don't try this, it'll influence your thinking and memories. Don't mess with these, you're guilty of distorted thinking. Cognitive bias, man becomes blinded. Decisions and problems you've been forced to solve them wrongly.
And that was the Cognitive Bias song by Bradley Ray. You can find more of Bradley Ray on his YouTube channel. And now a personal discovery. I introduce to you the Woolf-Pulfrich Effect. If you take a broken pair of sunglasses, or break a really cheap pair so that only one eye sees dark and light, then your brain can perform amazing and apparently unrelated tricks. Yes, I'm talking about optical illusions on radio, and you can try these at home. In 1922, German physicist Carl Pulfrich read about the observations of astronomer Max Wolf. Pulfrich investigated the effect that when a pendulum is moving in a straight line backwards and forwards in front of you, if you don't fall asleep, then when you have one eye looking through a grey lens and the other through a clear lens, then the pendulum looks as if it's moving in a big stretched circle. The two-dimensional flat line of its path looks as if it's moving in a three-dimensional ellipse, going away from you and then towards you as it goes from left to right, or right to left, depending on which eye is looking through the dark lens. Pulfrich tried this because of an eye injury that caused a cataract in his eye. The theory is that the nerve cells in the visual cortex receiving the brighter image actually process the image faster than the neurons processing the darker image. This separation in processing time causes a spatial illusion, because your brain integrates the two images as if they were slightly separated in space as well as in time. So you get your Viewmaster stereoscopic 3D effect with only one image and no messing around with polarized lenses or red-green glasses. Flash forward to the 1990s and people realised that fun could be had with this illusion on TV. Wherever there is side-to-side movement such as sporting events, parades and action movies, and of course video games. Sometimes also when the camera's moving. When the movement stops, the 3D illusion goes away. A special Doctor Who episode called Dimensions in Time was produced especially to exploit the Pulfrich 3D effect, and featured a crossover with the soap opera EastEnders. The BBC produced several 3D TV shows to raise money for the Children in Need charity in 1993, selling the Pulfrich half sunglasses. In America, an episode of Third Rock from the Sun was made in 3D, and an episode of Married with Children. In fact, you don't even need a show with horizontal action. If you tune into a dead channel, so that you can see video snow, and watch the snow while wearing half sunglasses, then you'll see the static of random dots boiling around in a big 3D cylinder. Old arcade games like R-Type and Nemesis give a good 3D illusion when viewed through Pulfrich half sunglasses. I took my Pulfrich half sunglasses to a 24-hour science fiction movie festival in Melbourne many years ago, and I had fun with the movies going into 3 dimensions whenever there was horizontal action. Then I had the surprise of seeing a movie where it stayed in 3D for the whole film, even in the scenes without camera movement or horizontal action. I realised that the movie had originally been filmed in stereo with 2 cameras for viewing in special cinemas with red-green stereo glasses or glasses with differently polarised lenses. The cinema I was in was only showing the view from one camera through one projector, just like you'd see on TV. With the half lenses on, somehow my brain was producing a stereographic 3-dimensional illusion. I passed the glasses around the group of 20 friends and they all saw the same illusion. It wasn't just me. Since that time, I've tested the effect on other movies, originally filmed with 2 cameras, and then only shown with one projector, and it works for them. It seemed to be more effective in a theatre than for the same film shown on TV. Polymath Matthew Hall dubbed it the Woolf-Pulfrich Effect in my honour. Since that time, I haven't found any references to any prior claims. When I asked computer scientists who research screen optical illusions at the University of Technology, Sydney, just how and why the Woolf-Pulfrich effect works, they just refused to believe me, and didn't even try. You can try it yourself with Alfred Hitchcock's Dial M for Murder, which was originally shot in 3D, but is usually screened in 2D, and be a real scientist. But beware if your emotional point of view changes during the experiment. If you find yourself feeling anxious or depressed, then take off the half sunglasses and change the lens to the other side. You'll feel better. In a bizarre twist, Harvard psychiatrist Dr. Friedrich Schiffer is using half sunglasses as a form of diagnosis and treatment for some types of anxiety and depression disorders. Some patients have their anxiety and depression intensified when one lens is dark, and lifted when the other view is darkened instead. It seems that one half of their brain has an optimistic view and the other has a more dismal view. He's found that patients who respond to the half sunglasses are good candidates for transcranial magnetic stimulation, a treatment that stimulates the healthy hemisphere of the brain with super strong electromagnets. 60% of depressed patients felt better when their right eye saw the brighter image, causing their left brain to be stimulated. It wasn't reported if they enjoyed any 3D effect under magnetic stimulation. Ironically, Pulfrich's discovery was inspired by the observations of astronomer Max Woolf, who shares the name with my father.
And who molded the universal dream of a better life into reality through your product here, the living symbol of our national heritage.
And that's all from us this time on Diffusion. You can send email to science@diffusionradio.com. That's science@diffusionradio.com. And tell us your thoughts, feelings, and stories. Subscribe to the podcast on the Diffusion website, www.diffusionradio.com. That's www.diffusionradio.com. Sound checking by Charles Willock. The news music was Rhinos Theme by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. I produce Diffusion, which is broadcast around Australia to 26 stations on the Community Radio Network. I'm Ian Woolf. Join us inside your audio device of choice for more science wondering next week on Diffusion Science Radio.
Science is fun. It helps you to learn, to know, and to appreciate. When you study science, you may go on field trips. You discover the marvelous interrelationships between all living things. You learn to read the history of the Earth as it is written in rocks and fossils. You find out what makes things tick, everything from a molecule to a living organism. In the study of science is found the most useful and satisfying knowledge of man. Knowledge of his physical world, its past, its present, and its future. And in your moments of relaxation, now and in the years to come, you will find the study of science leading you into fascinating pursuits. Photography, collecting. Why study science? Study science because you will find in the study of science a richer, more rewarding life.